Without divulging his secret, Dante could not give sufficiently clear instructions to an agent. There were, besides, other particulars he was desirous of ascertaining, and those were of a nature he alone could investigate in a manner satisfactory to himself. His looking-glass had assured him, during his stay at Leghorn, that he ran no risk of recognition. Moreover, he had now the means of adopting any disguise he thought proper. One fine morning, then, his yacht, followed by the little fishing boat, boldly entered into the port of Marseilles, and anchored exactly opposite the spot from whence, on the never-to-be-forgotten night of his departure for the Chateau d'If, he had been put on board the boat destined to convey him thither. Still Dante could not view without a shudder the approach of the gendarme who accompanied the officers deputed to demand the bill of health ere the yacht was permitted to hold communication with the shore. But with that perfect self-possession he had acquired during his acquaintance with Faria, Dante coolly presented an English passport he had obtained from Leghorn, and as this gave him a standing which a French passport would not have afforded, he was informed that there existed no obstacle to his immediate debarkation. The first person to attract the attention of Dante, as he landed on the Canebière, was one of the crew belonging to the Pharaon. Edmond welcomed the meeting with this fellow, who had been one of his own sailors, as a sure means of testing the extent of the change which time had worked in his own appearance. Going straight toward him, he propounded a variety of questions on different subjects, carefully watching the man's countenance as he did so, but not a word or look implied that he had the slightest idea of ever having seen before the person with whom he was conversing. Wow, okay. I mean, I feel like Dumas is just kind of rushing toward some sort of conclusion here. Maybe, okay, as we talked a little bit about how this was serialized, I wonder, when we broke down the three different ways and modes that Dumas utilized for creating cliffhangers or, chapter breaks or serialization breaks, I wonder if that's why we see so much of this kind of speed up, slow down style. Here, there's a lot of action happening, and we aren't experiencing it in real time with Dante. It's just kind of presented as an overview, and then we tend to slow down in those moments of revelation or introduction of new characters or situations that we have to contend with that bring us deeper into the story or the characterization of Dante. So what's going on here? I guess, with such a long book, you can't pause for every single thing that can draw out suspense. But in a vacuum, I would have loved to have seen this moment, because reapproaching this area that is so important to his past and where he is now, I feel like I would have liked to have had this moment when he is coming into the port and the gendarme, as we remember, are the kind of military force of the monarchy, approaching him. These people are the ones that brought him out to the Chateau d'If and imprisoned him. This is such a inversion of what happened before that it's handled in just a single paragraph here. It starts with Dante could not view without a shudder the approach of the gendarme, ... And basically, once he gives the passport to the gendarme, they say that he was informed that there existed no obstacle to his immediate debarkation. So he can get off the boat without any trouble and go about his business. And, that whole process, you could see the anime sweat bubble dripping down Dante's forehead, going through this. And I don't know, it's a moment that could have been drawn out a little bit more. But I guess, as I said, if you're reading a 1,500-page book, not in the style that we are, a page a day, you gotta speed things up someplace. So why not? And I'm hoping that he's speeding it up because he's bringing us to a more interesting place that he does want to slow down in. But also, this is a moment when Dante is reflecting upon his own flexible identity and testing the waters of its viability. And I want to pull out something from the beginning of this passage and the end of this passage to kind of highlight that, which is, where's the sentence? Here it is. His looking glass had assured him during his stay at Leghorn that he ran no risk of recognition. Moreover, he now had the means of adopting any disguise he thought proper. I missed the part in the dungeon when Faria taught him how to become a master of disguise. But, his point being that I think when he looked at himself in the mirror back in Leghorn and shaved off his beard and trimmed his hair and got a good look at how the years had transformed his face into something he didn't recognize, maybe had a deep shattering effect on his psyche in that he walked away from that going, I no longer know who I am by looking at myself. And therefore, because I have a sort of dysmorphia between what I look like and how I view myself, and let's just earmark that how he views himself seems also to be pretty fluid, he can adopt whatever appearance he wants and has the, riches in order to buy all the fake mustaches he wants to apply to his face. But then when he tests it, Dumas immediately gives him something that creates a viable test, but without huge stakes. It's just a crew member aboard the Pharaon that he runs into here. It's not like he's running into Morel on the port and having to test something that would have, stakes behind it. If it was Morel or, Danglars or someone important, not that any one person of the crew isn't important. Of course, every single hand and voice has value. But you know what I mean? Narratively, it has a deep narrative function. If he's testing it out with that person, then of course, we wouldn't have a story. They could just find him out more quickly, and the end of the story happens much sooner. This becomes a 300-page book rather than a 1,500-page book. But it just kind of it's kind of like a fun game for us as readers to be able to test those waters kind of safely before throwing Dante into a situation that has deeper stakes to it. So what Dumas is kind of doing here is seeing how far he can bend this scenario of Dante's disguise before it breaks completely. And so he's just starting to bend that bar a little bit. And I imagine with every new person he encounters that has more narrative function, there's going to be more and more tension in that bar before it breaks, if it ever does. Anyway, we are almost done with chapter 25, 3 episodes left. So join me here tomorrow as we continue. Okay, I'll see you then. Goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.